What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Mixed Martial Arts. My name is Austin Shaper, and my God, it's been a long, long time since I have recorded a podcast episode for you guys. I apologize for that. It's been a couple of months, but I'm back. Just been busy with life and kind of just fell off the wagon. You guys know how it is. If you're doing something consistently and then you stop doing it, it feels like a mountain to just do it again. So even though I love doing these episodes, I love recording, I love talking about obviously the UFC. I love talking about geopolitical issues, and I love talking about the UFO phenomenon. When you stop doing it, it's hard to pick it back up. That's really all it was. It's just kind of hard to pick it back up, and you got so much real life stuff going on, and I don't know, but I am back, and I apologize for my absence. I did get some nice, encouraging messages from people who, I don't know if they thought I died or what, but they were encouraging me to keep going, and I appreciated that. So for anybody who does continue to tune into this stuff, don't really care if it's 3 people or a million. Couldn't care less. I just do this for something to talk about, I guess. So I'm back, and I wanted to discuss today. It's going to be a relatively short episode. I just wanted to talk about some of this stuff developing in the Middle East. You guys know, if you follow any of this geopolitical tension, I guess it's more than tension at this point, but if you're following any of this geopolitical turmoil going on in the world, not just the Israel-Gaza war, but now it looks like Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon, very likely, I should say, are going to be facing off shortly. I hope that's not the case, but it seems like it's going to be. They issued an ultimatum, the IDF issued an ultimatum to the Hezbollah group to essentially move back from their border, and they said no, and we don't know the time frame on that deadline, but they said they were going to initiate some sort of military operation into Lebanon if they did not move back, and they ain't moving back. So we'll have to see about that, but you got that. You obviously still have the Israel-Gaza war still going on with Hamas. That's still ongoing, and it's not getting any better. It does seem like they've stopped, Israel has stopped most of these giant carpet bombing type operations. Now they're kind of moving in on foot, and that's been the way that it's going for the past, month or so. And you hear from their perspective, they say they're making progress. You hear from other people's perspective saying it's a quagmire, it's a stalemate, like a Middle Eastern Stalingrad. What's true, what's false, very hard to know. But I think the most interesting development to happen, maybe even interesting isn't the right word, but the most potentially dangerous development that just recently happened is obviously the attack on the base, or I guess it's not even a base, it's an outpost. Was it on the border of like Jordan and Syria? I'm not really sure exactly where it was. Somewhere in the desert, a proxy, an Iranian-funded proxy was able to now, we've heard it's a drone, and then I've heard others say it was some sort of ballistic missile, but I believe it was a drone. Somebody can correct me on that if I am wrong, but I heard it was a drone. Either way, they killed 3 American soldiers, injured another over 40, at least 8 of them with serious traumatic brain injury, TBI, that had to be medevaced out. So not good. We knew this was an eventuality. There's been over 160 attacks. This may have marked the 160th attack on Americans since the start of the Gaza war. And that's not to even mention what's going on still with the Houthis in the Red Sea. They have not ceased their operations of attacking commercial vessels. They've hit quite a few now. And after this operation, I forget the name of the operation, like Prosperity something. I forget what the name of the operation is. The Americans, along with a few other nations, supposedly made so that they could stop the Houthis, deter them from continuing to disrupt commercial shipping. It's had virtually no effect because they're continuing to do it. I think we just got a report recently within the past hour or two of another incident somewhere in the Red Sea. Haven't heard anything about what it is yet, but suffice it to say, they haven't stopped. So this deterrence method isn't working, and you now see the Biden administration coming out and saying they're going to be striking. Haven't told us if it's going to be directly on Iranian soil or if they're just going to strike back in Iraq and Syria at this proxy group. We've heard that it is I don't know how to pronounce their name, the Kataib Hezbollah. I don't know how you pronounce it. I've never even heard of them, but one of the many funded Iranian proxy groups that attacked the American outpost, and supposedly retaliation is coming. Now, do you guys believe it's going to be any serious retaliation? I don't know. I find this entire situation to be, you got some people saying, oh, it's World War III, they're going to attack Iran. Then you have other people thinking that Biden's going to do nothing, or that he's going to blow up some empty warehouses, kind of like what he did with, not Hezbollah, what he did with the Houthis, and essentially this kind of attempt to save face. But now the difference is between the Houthis situation and this is that now you have dead American soldiers. That obviously ups the ante in a big way. So we'll have to wait and see. The operation, quote unquote, supposedly could be starting today, tomorrow. It's been about 3 days since that attack took place, so I'm kind of surprised that this hasn't started. I know that the Biden administration was weighing their options, like what are they going to do? I think it's a joke to even suggest that they're going to attack Iranian soil. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm willing to bite my words or eat my words if I'm wrong on this, but my personal opinion so far is that they're definitely not going to strike Iran. Biden said he doesn't want a Middle Eastern war, and you can bet that that is the truth. I've heard some theories of people saying, oh, he's going to start this war, maybe to keep himself in office or prevent an election. I can understand the rationale for why you think that, but I have been recently listening to a very fascinating book about the Vietnam War. It's called, go figure, The Vietnam War. It's a very long audiobook, like 31 hours. And if there's one takeaway I've gotten from it so far, it's that elections and politics plays into the geopolitical strategies that countries take in like a much bigger way than I ever could have predicted. And going into election season back then during the Vietnam War, what's his name? Lyndon B. Johnson, the president, a lot of the decisions he was making were based around his attempt to get back into office, or to continue, I guess, to get reelected in office, and dealing with an ongoing crisis and trying to balance that with public opinion. And I always found that to be strange that factors into like military decisions in such a big way, but it just does. A lot of these people are crazy. A lot of these guys who are in office, they are power hungry for whatever reason. I don't know if it's egotistical reasons. I don't know if it's financial reasons. I don't know what compels these guys to factor in such like a selfish decision-making process when it comes to decisions that affect like millions of people's lives and people dying. But they did it in the Vietnam War, and you can bet your ass that Biden wants to get reelected this upcoming November, and that this Iranian, I guess you could just say Middle Eastern crisis, because it's not even just Iran, but this crisis in general in the Middle East, it could really affect his presidency. Not that the presidency is going good, in any means, but when you look at it now, it's like, okay, you have a lot of people thinking that this could be one of the most consequential decisions he makes in his presidency. Is that true? Time will tell, but I mean, he obviously has a plate full going on right now. Like I said, you have potentially Hezbollah and Israel facing off. You obviously still have Israel and Hamas in Gaza, and you also have the Houthis in the Red Sea, pretty much shooting at anything that moves in the water. And now you have a proxy group that just killed American soldiers. We all know that they stem from Iran, but I have heard an argument that obviously the Iranians came out and said they had nothing to do with this. They did not tell this. They did not help indirectly or directly. Now, do you believe them? A country's not going to admit it whether they did it or not, and we obviously know the training, the funding, the weapons, all that comes from Iran. Everybody knows that. That's not a secret. But I did hear Colonel Douglas McGregor have an interesting interview recently where he spoke about the fact that these Arab proxy groups don't necessarily make all of their decisions based on Iran, and a lot of them are doing this, as they've stated, because of America's involvement in the Gaza war. So are they acting under Iran's direction, or are they just simply using the equipment and the training and the funding that they've gotten from Iran to take matters into their own hand? And Iran, while they're not upset about it, is maybe just taking a back seat and saying, hey, let's just see what they do. If they want to attack and they have these they want to stand on this moral decision in their opinion, then go for it. And we just don't know the truth of it. We're not going to hear the truth from either the American perspective or the Iranian perspective. So we just don't know. We have heard Biden come out and say they're weighing their options, and that this could be not a singular strike, but it's likely to be this tiered response over the course of a few days, or maybe even weeks, some sort of operation, I guess similar to what they're doing with the Houthis. Has it deterred the Houthis at all? Absolutely not. And this proxy group, this Hezbollah group, not to be confused, as I said, with the ones in Lebanon, but this proxy group came out and said it's not going to stop us. Any attack that you guys retaliate upon us is not going to stop us. But then interesting, before I came and recorded this episode, like 5 minutes before I started it, I saw a post on X from quite a few military accounts that said the proxy group came out and said that they basically announced that they're going on the defense, that they're going to pause any attacks upon American troops or bases or outposts. That's interesting. Now, has there been some backdoor negotiations between the Biden administration and maybe Iran, who then contacted these proxy groups and said, hey, why don't you chill it out? You're going to spark a regional war. Or is this a decision that they're making just to save their own ass, saying, okay, we know a strike is probably imminent. Let's come out and say, hey, we're going to take a pause on this in hopes that maybe the Biden administration does not even strike. And they just say, okay, do it one more time and then we'll come after you. I don't know. I don't know the answer. You guys can give me your thoughts on it. But I do find it interesting that this is happening going so close into an election. I mean, we are in an election year, but leading up to November, I would not be surprised if more of these crisis situations develop, not just in the Middle East, but potentially with China and Taiwan. Obviously, Russia and Ukraine is still ongoing. We haven't seen the end of that story yet. But it's fascinating times. I want your guys' opinions on this because I go back and forth. I don't think they're going to strike Iran. I think that's pretty much off the table. I could be wrong. You just never know. This administration's rather unpredictable, and they tend to make very drastically terrible decisions when it really counts. So would it surprise me? And what do I think? If you're asking me my opinion on what they should do, should you strike just the proxies? Should you attack Iran to send a clear message, hey, you kill our soldiers, we're going to retaliate tenfold? Or should, what would option C be? I guess no retaliation, just say don't a couple more times like Biden and Kamala Harris did, basically just come out and say, hey, don't, send a strongly worded letter and hope that deters them. Or I guess the fourth option would be just to pull these troops out of the Middle East who are essentially magnets. They're stranded in the desert. I think there's only, 400 or 500? I'm not sure how many troops, but not a lot at this outpost, just randomly in the desert. And I know that we heard that it's because they're fighting Al-Qaeda or ISIS. And, if you want to argue the merit of that, I don't know enough about it to have like a firm opinion, but I can have an overreaching opinion about the entire situation in the Middle East, and it's that the American presence isn't helping anything. It's just not helping. If you just look at the past, it hasn't helped. It's very unlikely that it's going to help, and it's increasing tensions, and it's also increasing the likelihood that the United States gets dragged into this regional conflict. And it's just fascinating times because we just don't know. We don't know what the response is going to look like. We do know the response is coming soon, and I don't think that the message that this proxy group just sent out saying, hey, we're going to go on the defense, do I think that's going to stop the retaliatory attack that's coming from the American side? No, I don't, but I do think we're in a precarious situation, and leaving our troops out there for no clear objective that has no clear timetable of when it would be completed and no clear parameters for its success. It's basically just leaving your troops out there to be bait. Now, I've heard the rumor that they're bait so that we can start a war. Obviously, there's people in government like Lindsey Graham who have obviously been begging for a war with Iran for quite some time. Is that just because they are attached to the military-industrial complex and they want to get a fat paycheck? I tend to think it's more ideological than just monetary gain that motivates somebody like Lindsey Graham. I don't know. But I think that I don't necessarily subscribe to the theory that leaving them there is an attempt to bait like Iran into a war, and that we just got the justification for that war with the dead soldiers. I don't necessarily think it goes that far. I don't know. I do think, though, that whether it's intentional or not, leaving the troops there, like I said, with no clear objective, the air defense didn't even work because supposedly there was a returning American drone coming back to base. And I don't know if they got them confused between the enemy drone that was approaching and the American drone apparently was following it. But regardless, clearly their defenses aren't up to par, and they're just there around surrounded by God knows how many proxies, and there's just nothing good that can come from this. There's no way you could sell to the American people at this point in time that outpost is needed, and that it's in America's national security to keep them there. I don't think there's a justified argument for that. If you guys have one, put it in the comments. Let's hear it. I'm open to being wrong, but it feels wrong to me, and it's just a powder keg. It's a powder keg. And do I think we're going to war with Iran? You're hearing that all over. It's like it's a bit frustrating when you go on any site like TikTok or X or anywhere now, and it just says World War III. It's like when World War III does happen, ain't nobody gonna believe it, because every single day there's a million videos that says World War III just started, World War III incoming, World War III starts tonight, and I don't think that is World War III. I do think that this response from the Biden administration could go up the escalatory ladder and take us one notch closer, definitely. But until we see what happens, I think it's safe to say they're probably not going to attack Iran. I mean, have we seen any overwhelmingly strong show of force from the Biden administration militarily since he's been in office? No. We saw what happened with Afghanistan. We tucked tail and ran. Is this going to be any different? We waited like 160 attacks until we decided to do a real response. So are they going to blow up more empty warehouses? Not to mention they posted it all over the place. They did press conferences. They posted it on their Twitter. So it's like, okay, you guys know that these proxy groups are like hit and run organizations. They don't have these giant bases. They set up shop, they shoot their rockets, they launch their drones, they close up shop, and they go and hide, and then they pop up in a new location. Everybody knows that. That's an insurgency. That's how these guys fight. It's their only chance. And the Biden administration knows this. So when you come out and you say you're going to do strikes and this and that, we saw how effective it was against the Houthis. Not effective at all. They estimated conservatively, supposedly, that they took out roughly 25% of their drone capabilities. And look, within days, they were still, maybe even the same day, they're still firing drones into the Red Sea. So clearly it's done nothing to deter them. This proxy group came out and said no attack is going to deter them. And we know that with a simple operation or two, a couple strikes is not going to get the job done. I can guarantee that it's not going to get the job done. So is this effective? No. Even when you heard Biden come out on an interview and they said, in regards to the Houthis, they came out and said, is this going to stop the Houthi aggression? He said, no, it's not so far. And then they said, well, are they going to continue? He said, yes, it's going to continue. So it goes to show that it's likely that this is just an attempt to save face, and that this has to do more with like his bid for re-election and trying to show the public that he's a strong president and that he's going to retaliate than really any clear military goal that's going to be reached through these strikes. I don't think I'm wrong about that. I'm pretty confident in saying that that's more to public appeal than, first of all, if they cared so much about these soldiers, they wouldn't abandon them out in the middle of nowhere and not give them proper air defense anyway. I mean, it's not like they sent a swarm of drones. It was one. Was it one ballistic missile or one drone? If they can't handle one drone, they got no business being surrounded by enemies. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I guess my roundabout point is that I don't think the Biden administration is under any illusion that these strikes are going to be extremely effective. I think this is an attempt to save face. I think this is an attempt to deter. But the counterpoint to that is they know it ain't going to deter anything. The opposing party already said as much, and we have a clear history of seeing what we've just done with the Houthis to see that it's not going to deter absolutely anything. So, in my opinion, it relates to what I said about Vietnam. It's an attempt for them to show face and to keep public opinion on their side. I think he's totally out of touch with how much the American public hates him. That's what it seems like from everything that I see online. It doesn't matter if he were to strike even Iran directly. He's going to get criticized for that. Rightfully so, in my opinion, if he did. Not that there's not a justification for making Iran pay. I think there is. Iran is going to continue to push this, whether it was them or not. They're going to continue to push the administration the weaker they look and appear. But on the flip side, kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't retaliate, you're inviting more attacks. If you do retaliate in an ineffective manner, okay, I guess you showed the public you're willing to do something, but the attacks continue. And if you attack Iran directly, it's a massive step up in the escalatory ladder. So I'm interested to hear what other people have to say. I was talking to my buddy about it on the phone recently, and we just came to the conclusion that this retaliatory strike that's incoming, whether it's an operation or singular strike, it's not going to work. It's not going to deter anything, so it's likely just going to continue. And while their odds aren't great, it took them like 160-something tries to cause any severe casualties or death. Among the Americans, they did eventually strike and land one, and it's likely if that many strikes continue, that many attacks, whether it be drones or ballistic missiles, whatever, they're going to land some more, and it's likely more American soldiers in a random outpost in a place we necessarily shouldn't maybe be is going to happen. And then how many attacks does it take until we do get forced into a confrontation with Iran? I was a little surprised to see Biden say in an interview today that he did hold Iran responsible because Iran trained and funded these guys. That is fair in my opinion, and I was a little surprised because I thought he was going to beat around the bush, but he did say that he holds them, responsible for this, at least in some degree. So time will tell. I just wanted to hop on here today and just talk about that because we are on the precipice of potentially something that could spark the regional war. Like I said, we have like 4 separate powder kegs in the Middle East right now just waiting to cook off. And that's to say nothing else about the state of the world and any of the other areas, any of the other theaters like China and Taiwan, Russia, Ukraine, America, China. You could go down the list, and it's just not looking good. My opinion, ultimately, to summarize it in a short point, would be that I think that coming up into such an important election season, I think we're going to see a lot more crazy shit like this. I think it's likely that more American troops might die. I think these attacks will continue no matter what, and I don't know the solution. I don't think there is an easy solution, but the Biden administration does not have the American support, at least not the majority of it. I don't know if there's an easy way out here except to withdraw our troops. And even that potentially has a downside. I'm not sure what off the top of my head, but I'm sure somebody can make an argument as to why it's important to keep troops out there. I don't know. Time will tell. I'll make another episode shortly when we see what happens with whatever strikes are incoming. But it's something else, man. We are living in an interesting time, and 2024, I predict, is going to be a lot crazier than even 2023. I think we are likely to see more conflict. I don't know if this is the end of it. I don't know if you're going to see Israel and Gaza begin to simmer down. I think that it's more likely than not they're going to go at it in Lebanon against Hezbollah. So I guess we will see, guys. I just wanted to get back on the bike and record again. It's been so long. I promise I'm going to get back on it. I'm going to be doing a UFC episode soon, and I'm definitely going to be doing a UFO UAP episode discussing that recent jellyfish UAP video that just dropped like a week or two ago from Jeremy Corbell. So I've got a lot to talk about. I apologize again. I'm never quitting, but sometimes I do kind of, I just do this for fun, so I do kind of phase in and out, and I accidentally just time went by. So much time went by before I record an episode. I just look back, I'm like, shit, I haven't recorded in a long, long time. So my apologies. Thank you to anybody who stuck with me. I don't care how many people watch this, but it is good to know that some people enjoy the content. So thank you guys so much. I'll be back shortly, I promise. Maybe, what is today? Today's Tuesday, so definitely by Thursday, you guys will see another episode from me. I promise you that. Have a good one, Martians. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with another episode shortly. Peace out.